Stewardship, faithfully stewarding the giftedness of others. As a worker, my responsibility is to faithfully steward my giftedness. But as a director, now I'm responsible for people other than myself. I'm going to steward the giftedness of other people. I need to be responsible to help other people in my group. So, number one, the responsibility to your workers. I will blame this on Paige Powers. She gave us an acronym. It's something that we teach in the discipler training material, but she gave us the acronym, and it's something that she learned through her crew training when she was a missionary with crew. It's maul the fat people. All right, so we're going to go through and we're going to talk about what that is. This is your responsibility to help them to develop and steward their giftedness. M stands for model. You're going to show them what ministry looks like. We look at the example of Christ, we see that he did ministry for close to 18 months with his guys just watching before he began to include them in doing things to help in the ministry. You're going to show them what the ministry looks like. A is for assist. You are going to have the workers assist you. You're still running the show, you're still doing the work, but they come in and now you give them specific tasks, part of the night, part of the ministry to take on for themselves. And that doesn't mean that you go, hey, I want you to start doing this thing, and wait till they show up and go, no, you did it wrong. No, you sit down with them, you work with them on, here's what we need you to do, here's what it looks like, you've seen me do it, let me show you where everything is. You give them what they need to do it well, but you have them assist you while you're still basically running the ministry. Then, you have them with, or you're with them. Or watch. You're there and you're present, but they're basically doing all the work. So they've assisted you. Now you kind of flip roles where you're basically in the room, but you're staying hands out. You're with them while they're doing it, or you're watching from the corner. Now, why would we want to watch from the corner or stay present in the room if we're not going to do the work? To see how they're doing, because you're still in a coaching process. You're still wanting to give them some pointers or some help on what they can do differently. Or they can look at you and go, help? What do I do with this one? You're in the room. It's a safety net for them, basically. All right, and then finally, leave. Leave. Cut the apron string, get out of the room, let them do it. It's a process of gradually turning this over to them, model assist, and then you're there with them, but you're not really doing it, and then finally you step out of the room. You let them do it on their own. No safety net. You're not in there coaching or counseling. Turn them loose. Now that doesn't mean you don't periodically come back and check on them or anything like that. It just means that there's a process where we don't just raise them up and then stand on top of them while they continue to do it. We turn it over to them and let them do their work. Now, we maul the fat people. What are fat people? Faithful. I'm sure you've heard this if you've been in any sort of church training anywhere. Faithful. What we mean by faithful is true to the original. If they're given a responsibility, will they take the responsibility and do it well? Giving somebody responsibility won't make someone responsible. It just gives them a chance to be responsible. Available. We all know people that we look at and we go, man, they would be so awesome at this ministry role, but they're not willing. They're not making themselves available for that opportunity. So faithful, available, and lastly is teachable. These are the three keys we want to look for as we're recruiting new workers and we want to develop in workers. Faithful, available, and teachable. If they come in and they're faithful to do their job every week and they're available to do that job, but they don't take anybody's counsel, they won't listen to what anybody says, they already have all the answers, you don't want that person in your ministry team in that condition. That will be a headache for you nonstop. As you have those people, you need to be in process of giving them the opportunity to exercise their giftedness and their talents from God. So, maul the fat people. All right? Any questions on the MAWL or the FAT? Next time you see Paige, go, I'm all fat. All right, number 2. Identify God's design of others for ministry. I had this backwards when I started in ministry. Came into youth ministry and I decided what all the youth workers were going to do, and then I started trying to beat them into making that happen. And one week we had everybody going through and taking a turn training, cross-training, it wasn't a bad thing. Each person taking a turn teaching. And so the guy was teaching the guy's Sunday school class, and his wife was teaching the girl's Sunday school class, and he got done teaching. And I realized very quickly, by the Holy Spirit's prompting, that he should never ever again teach in youth class or any other class, ever, anywhere. And so what I realized was not everybody is going to be able to develop every ministry skill. What our job is to identify in them what skill do they have, what talent has God put there, and to develop that. Or the potential where we look and we go, you know what, they're really, I wonder, and we give them a couple of tries and it ain't happening, that's okay. But it's amazing how much unused and untapped skill and giftedness we have in the church, because people just have they've never had anybody look and see that in them and give them the opportunity to express it. So that is a responsibility that we have as directors, is to help others identify and function in the design that God has given them for ministry. And let me say, that may be sitting down with a worker and having an honest conversation of, you are not designed for this ministry. That's okay. It doesn't mean that they're broken. It doesn't mean that they don't have a ministry. It just means it's not your ministry. And so you help them find another ministry. And it needs to be helping them find another ministry, not just you're fired. But we need to be willing to do that. That's a part of our role and responsibility. Otherwise, it's frustrating us, it's frustrating them, and it's frustrating the people that they minister to. All right, so how about the stewardship growth? Number 1, step out of hands-on work except where necessary for training workers. Now, we're talking on the spectrum again here. Those of you that are directors would probably love to be in a role where you could work through your workers and not be hands-on in the room every week. At the size of our church and the reality of where we are in developing workers and training people, that's not a reality for all of our ministries. It's not a reality to be able to go, okay, I'm going to be the nursery director, and so I'll never actually work in the nursery. That's probably not the way that it works. So this is something that we want to work on, but as much as you can, you want to work toward letting the workers do ministry and you be out of the room so that they have the freedom to become what God has designed them to be. Even if you know you can do it better. Even if you think, well, I'll do this for them and I'll help them. No. You're not letting them develop if you do it for them. Let them learn to do it for them. Secondly, as you hand off responsibility, give the proper authority to them to do that job. I don't know how many of you have ever been in the position, whether at work or in church, you've been asked to take a responsibility role but not given the authority to properly do it. Or you've been held to account for being the authority over a job, but you didn't actually have any responsibility that went with it. That's a very ugly thing when those two don't match up. And so if you're going to turn somebody loose to be the teacher in the room, you let them be the teacher. Don't come in every week and go, well, I would do this in this order and I would change it around. No, let them decide how the teaching environment is going to look. Maybe there's curriculum, but you've got to let them explore developing their teaching gift in that way. And so if you're going to give somebody the authority to do a job or responsibility to do a job, make sure that you give them the appropriate authority to get that job done as well. And number 3, uphold faithful standards for yourself. Uphold standards of faithfulness for yourself. And just a couple of examples of this, and you may not ever think about how this works, but are any of you familiar with the news recently that Bill Hybels got in trouble and had to step down from his church? Yeah, that's not unusual that pastors and leaders in church get in trouble for money issues with somebody of the opposite sex, just honesty issues about things that are going on. That's not unusual. And so there are things that we need to put in place, standards of faithfulness to protect our ministry, to protect us, to protect our testimony, to protect the other people. And so one of those things, and I want to encourage you to please don't take this any less seriously than you should, and just leave it at that. But you should not ever be alone in the building with somebody of the opposite sex. Any of us. As pastors, when there is one of the ladies in the office, I came in Tuesday morning and Dawn was in, and apparently I had not communicated with her that Pastor Jim was going to be in Chicago that week. So I came in, and it was she and I here in the building. So what did I do?
He texted me and said, I'm sitting in the truck.
I went out and I sat in the truck until Josh brought the kids over, and they dropped the kids off, and they were in the office. So then it was Dawn and the kids, and then I was there able to come into the office and do the work. It was only like 15 minutes. And it would be easy to think, well, it's just 15 minutes, it's not a big deal. I cannot overestimate for you or over-encourage for you the necessity that we protect ourselves, our church, the other people in our ministry by things like that. Now, that's not the only one we need to be aware of. Things like money. If as a youth pastor, when we were getting ready to go on an activity, I never touched the money. Why? Because I was going to steal it? No. Because nobody could even accuse me of stealing it because I never touched it. I always had one of the other workers who would stand with an envelope, kids would bring them the money, they would stick it in the envelope. And then what did they do? Before they gave it to me, what happened? They counted it and wrote on the envelope how much money belonged in the envelope. Then they could give it to me. And I would take it and I would turn it into the treasurer. Why? Because I don't want there to even be room for somebody to accuse that what money was supposed to end up somewhere didn't end up where it's supposed to end up. So we need to think through things like that and make sure that we're upholding faithful standards for ourselves. Now, what does that have to do with stewardship? Well, yes, you are looking to steward the faithfulness of others. But if in stewarding the faithfulness of others, we open ourselves up to attack, we open ourselves up to opportunity to lose testimony or to get in trouble or to just not earn their respect of our faithfulness, then we've lost privilege in ministry. We've lost the ability to do what we would like to do, which is help them grow and develop in their ministry. So, as we think about stewardship, we can't forget that as you move across that spectrum, you are taking on not just more and more privilege of helping people, you're taking on a position of higher and higher authority and responsibility, and with that comes less and less freedom to just do whatever you want to do. Sometimes as we move across that spectrum, we have to say, you know what, because I am stepping up in authority and responsibility, I also have to sacrifice some freedoms that I might personally have for the sake of the ministry. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's just the way that it is. That's how it works. As we take on more responsibility, more authority, more leadership, there are less and less things that we get to just do it however we want to because of our responsibility to so many other people. All right. So stewardship. Stewarding today's talent to glorify God. Any questions on people development, collaboration, or stewardship? Okay, you will be asked to fill out an annual evaluation on your workers as an annual thing. We've told them this in the worker training. This is a part of how you're going to help them develop. You're stewarding them. You're going to help them develop as workers. There may be things that you include in how you annually go through. I know Tom would annually sit down with the people in the music ministry, and he would go through things as far as music and what they were working on, all kinds of stuff. It wasn't just the stuff in the worker training. There were all kinds of things that he would work with them on and evaluate because of that specific ministry area. And so you may have those as well. But we'll ask you to do these annually for your workers. Depending on your ministry, it may be the kind of thing where you can just fill this out and give it to them and go, hey, I think you're doing a really good job. I want you to see the evaluation, and here it is, so that you can be praying about how God wants to continue to develop you, all the way down to somebody that probably several of your people need a personal, man, you are doing awesome, you're doing so good, keep it up, or, hey, we really need to talk about a couple of the things in ministry and how we're going to go forward from here. So each ministry will be a little bit different, but we'll encourage you to do that, as well as whoever is the leader or pastor over you as a director will fill one out for you. And again, that's just going to go straight through the things that we've listed off in the training as stewardship growth goals. So it's not like we're going to surprise you and be like, we came up with a new category. I mean, it's going to be, it's just literally just goes straight through the book, and it's got a ranking or a yes, no for each of those. Okay? All right, any questions before we turn you loose? Look at that, 10 minutes early.